Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. The Nexus Cascade, a sprawling orbital city tethered to the edge of the Tarantula Nebula, thrummed with the restless energy of a galaxy in constant motion. Its jagged spires of titanium and crystal stabbed into the void, catching the nebula's fiery reds and purples in a dazzling display that made the station feel alive, almost sentient. Maglev tubes crisscrossed the skyline, ferrying traders, diplomats, and smugglers through a maze of commerce and conspiracy. This was the galaxy's crossroads, where deals were struck, secrets were sold, and the smallest misstep could spark a war. Captain Lucas Hayes, a human operative from Earth's orbital guard, navigated the trade district with a mix of caution and exhaustion. At 34, he carried the weight of a decade in covert ops, scars on his knuckles, a faint limp from a bad drop on Ganymede, and hazel eyes that had seen too much to trust easily. His dark blonde hair was cropped short, practical for the zero-G missions he'd run, and his navy blue uniform, patched with nanoweave armor, clung to a frame hardened by years of training and survival. The orbital guard patch on his shoulder, a silver globe pierced by a lightning bolt, marked him as Earth's boots on the ground in this alien melting pot, but Lucas felt more like a firefighter dousing sparks before they could ignite. The air was heavy with the metallic tang of recycled oxygen, mixed with the sharp, unfamiliar sense of alien street food, grilled Zorathian kelp, Torvani spice broth, and something that smelled like burnt rubber. Lucas's mission was straightforward but brutal: secure Earth's access to the Valera Expanse, a resource-rich region contested by the Arcturians, a species of bioluminescent humanoids with a knack for manipulation and a superiority complex to match. The Arcturian delegate, Prime Envoy Lyrian, had spent the last 5 days tearing apart every human proposal with a smile that was all teeth and no warmth. Her glowing skin pulsed faintly with each word, a subtle flex of power that made Lucas's skin crawl. "Humans are ambitious," Lyrian had said yesterday, her voice like silk over steel. "But ambition without strength is just noise. The Expanse is no place for your fragile kind." The words had hit Lucas like a gut punch, not because they were true, but because they echoed the doubts he'd buried years ago, back when Earth was still clawing its way out of the dust crisis of 2241. Humanity had survived famine, storms, and near extinction by sheer stubbornness, building ships from scrap and staking a claim among the stars. Lucas wasn't about to let some glowing alien write them off. His calm buzzed, pulling him from his thoughts. A grainy hollow of Colonel Dana Reyes, his commanding officer, flickered to life above his wrist. "Hayes, we've got trouble. Arcturian patrols are massing near the Expanse's neutral zone. Could be saber-rattling, could be worse. Keep Lyrian in check and watch your six." "Understood, Colonel," Lucas replied, his voice rough from too little sleep. He killed the calm and rubbed the back of his neck, where tension had knotted his muscles into a vice. 5 days of diplomatic gridlock had worn him down, and the constant pressure of Lyrian's smug superiority wasn't helping. He needed to clear his head, to find something real to ground him before he lost it, and said something that'd get him court-martialed. The lower levels of the Nexus Cascade called to him. Unlike the gleaming diplomatic core, the underbelly was a gritty labyrinth of dive bars, black markets, and makeshift gyms where the station's outcasts thrived. Lucas slipped into a service lift, his guard credentials bypassing the locks with a soft beep. The lift groaned as it descended, the hum of the station's reactors vibrating through his boots. He stepped out into a dim corridor, the walls scrawled with alien graffiti and patched with duct tape. The air smelled of engine grease and stale booze, a stark contrast to the sterile polish above. A rhythmic clanging echoed from a side passage, steady and deliberate, like a heartbeat. Lucas followed it, his hand resting lightly on the pulse pistol at his hip. The sound led him to a ramshackle gym, its flickering neon sign reading Earth's Anchor Terran Fitness. Through the scratched transparent walls, he saw a mix of species wrestling with human-designed equipment, barbells, kettlebells, and heavy bags, all relics of a planet that refused to quit. In the corner, a lone figure stood out, moving with a precision that drew his eye. She was Arcturian, her skin glowing with a soft, teal luminescence that pulsed faintly with each movement. Her long, silver hair was tied back in a loose braid, swaying as she lifted a barbell loaded with enough weight to make a human wince. Her frame was slender but taut, muscles flexing under her translucent skin, revealing a network of glowing veins that shimmered like starlight. Lucas paused, caught off guard. Arcturians were known for their mental agility, not physical strength, yet here she was, defying every stereotype he'd been fed. He pushed through the door, the clang of metal greeting him like an old friend. The Arcturian glanced up, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that felt like a challenge. She didn't stop her reps, but her lips curved into a faint, mocking smile. "A human in my gym," she said, her voice low and melodic, tinged with an accent that hummed against his eardrums. "Lost, or just curious?" Lucas leaned against a rack of dumbbells, forcing a casual grin. "Captain Lucas Hayes, Orbital Guard. Just wondering why an Arcturian's slumming it with Earth tech. Don't your people have biolabs for this kind of thing?" She set the barbell down with a controlled thud, her glow pulsing brighter for a moment. "I am Vera, Sentinel of the Arcturian Covenant. And this?" She gestured to the barbell, her smile sharpening. "This is real. Your weights don't lie, don't flatter. They demand truth. Something your kind could stand to learn." Lucas chuckled, unfazed. "Truth, huh? Looks like you're just flexing for the crowd. Bet I could match you, rep for rep." Vera's eyes narrowed, but there was a spark of amusement in them. "Bold words, Captain. Humans are soft, built for comfort, not combat. You'd collapse before the third lift." "Try me," Lucas said, stepping closer, his voice low but steady. "Pick your poison. I'll keep up." She studied him, her glow pulsing softly, as if reading him through some Arcturian sense he couldn't fathom. "Very well," she said, pointing to a deadlift bar loaded with plates that would have intimidated a power lifter. "Match this. If you fail, you leave my gym and don't come back." Lucas stripped off his jacket, revealing a lean, scarred torso that spoke of years in the field. "And if I win?" Vera's smile returned, sharp and teasing. "You won't." A small crowd gathered, humans, Zorathians, a few curious Torvani, as Lucas stepped up to the bar. The weight was punishing, a solid 600 pounds, but he trained under Earth's gravity, not the cushy artificial fields of the Nexus. He gripped the bar, his knuckles whitening, and pulled. The first rep was brutal, his muscles screaming, but he locked eyes with Vera and powered through. She matched him effortlessly, her glow steady, her movements fluid. By the 8th rep, sweat stung his eyes, and his legs burned, but he caught the faintest flicker of strain in Vera's expression. He pushed through one more, setting the bar down with a triumphant clang. The crowd erupted, mostly the humans, their cheers echoing off the gym's walls. Vera's glow dimmed slightly, her breath uneven, but her eyes held a grudging respect. "Not bad," she admitted, wiping a bead of sweat from her temple. "For a human." Lucas grinned, catching his breath. "Told you we're tougher than we look. How about a drink to celebrate?" "My treat." Vera hesitated, her violet eyes searching his face, as if weighing the risk. "One drink," she said finally, her voice softer. "For curiosity." The nebula's rest was a dive bar tucked into the Nexus's mid-levels, its walls lined with hollow panels that mimicked the nebula's swirling colors. The crowd was a mix of off-duty spacers, shady merchants, and the occasional diplomat looking to escape the spotlight. Lucas and Vera slid into a booth near the back, where the hum of the station's core was a faint pulse under their feet. The bartender, a grizzled human with a cybernetic eye, slid a bottle of Terran whiskey and a glass of Arcturian glow wine their way. Lucas sipped his whiskey, the burn grounding him as he studied Vera. Her glow was softer now, less aggressive, and her braid had loosened, strands of silver hair framing her face. "So, Sentinel," he said, leaning back, "what's an Arcturian warrior doing in a human gym? Shouldn't you be guarding Lyrian's ego in the council chambers?" Vera's fingers traced the rim of her glass, the glow wine shimmering like liquid starlight. "Lyrian guards her own ego well enough. I train to stay sharp, to remind myself that strength isn't just in the mind. My people forget that sometimes. She paused, her eyes meeting his. And you, Captain? You don't strike me as the diplomatic type. What's your real mission? Lucas's smile didn't waver, but his guard went up. She was probing, and he wasn't about to spill orbital guard secrets. Keeping Earth's interests safe. Same as you, I'd guess. Her glow pulsed faintly, a sign of amusement or irritation, he couldn't tell. You're evasive. Typical human. But I'll share a truth, the expanse isn't just about minerals. It holds ruins, ancient, pre-Concord tech that could change the balance of power. Lyrian wants it locked down. Your people want to crack it open. Lucas's heart skipped. Ancient tech was a game-changer, the kind of thing that could make or break Earth's place in the galaxy. And you think we're the threat? Maybe Lyrian's the one stirring the pot. Before Vera could respond, Lucas's comm buzzed with an urgent message from Colonel Reyes. Hayes, Arcturians just accused us of deploying armed drones in the expanse. They're threatening to walk out and escalate to the Concord. Get to Lyrian's suite, now. Lucas stood, his whiskey forgotten. Looks like our drink's over. Duty calls. Vera rose with him, her glow wine untouched. I'm coming with you. If Lyrian's making accusations, I need to know why. He raised an eyebrow, surprised. You sure? This could get ugly. Her lips curved into a faint smile. I'm Arcturian, Captain. Ugly is my domain. Lyrian's suite on level 89 was a glowing cathedral of crystal and light, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that shifted like a living organism. Prime Envoy Lyrian stood at the center, her teal skin glowing brighter than Vera's, her violet eyes cold as she faced Lucas and Vera. A holodisplay hovered before her, showing fuzzy footage of human drones in the expanse, drones Lucas knew didn't exist. This is bullshit, Lucas said, his voice hard but controlled. Earth doesn't have drones that advanced. You're setting us up. Lyrian's glow pulsed, a wave of pressure hitting Lucas's mind like a physical blow. Your denials are meaningless, Captain. The Concord will see this evidence and act. Humanity's reach ends here. Vera stepped forward, her own glow flaring, a subtle challenge. Envoy, these accusations risk war. If the drones are fabricated, as Captain Hayes claims, we must investigate before acting. Lyrian's eyes snapped to Vera, her glow darkening. You forget your place, Sentinel. Your duty is to obey, not question. Lucas's gut churned. Lyrian's aggression felt off, like she was pushing a narrative too hard. Before he could press, an explosion rocked the suite, shattering a crystal wall into 1,000 glittering shards. Armored figures stormed in, their black exosuits marked with a crimson claw insignia, the Shadow Talons, a mercenary group known for dirty work across the galaxy. Move! Lucas shouted, shoving Vera behind a console as plasma bolts scorched the air. He drew his pulse pistol, firing a burst that caught one Talon in the chest, dropping them instantly. Vera moved like liquid light, her bioluminescent skin flaring as she disarmed another with a spinning kick, her movements a blur of grace and power. Lyrian vanished in the chaos, her guards overwhelmed. Lucas and Vera fought back to back, their rhythms syncing like they'd trained together for years. This isn't random, Vera said, her voice tight as she deflected a bolt with a shimmering energy shield. The Talons want the Expanse's ruins. Then we need to get out, Lucas replied, grabbing a fallen Talon's rifle. There's a service tunnel behind the hollow panel. It'll take us to the docks. As they dove for the tunnel, a second explosion shook the station, and Lucas's comm crackled with a distorted message. Expanse, signal activated, ruins waking. The line went dead, but the words hit like a punch. The ruins Vera mentioned were coming alive, and someone, Lyrian, the Talons, or something older, was pulling the strings. The service tunnel was a claustrophobic maze of flickering lights and hissing coolant pipes. Lucas led the way, his rifle ready, while Vera's glow lit the path like a soft beacon. You didn't have to come, he said, glancing back at her. This isn't your fight. Her violet eyes met his, steady and unyielding. "It is now, Captain. If the Talons get those ruins, no one's safe, not your people, not mine." Lucas nodded, a grudging respect settling in. "Guess we're in this together, then." They reached the docking bay, where a sleek, unmarked ship loomed, its hull pulsing with a faint, unnatural green light. Lucas recognized Arcturian design, but the modifications, jagged, almost organic, felt wrong. Vera grabbed his arm, her voice urgent. "It's a trap. The Talons are waiting." Lucas's grip tightened on his rifle, a grin tugging at his lips. "Good. Let's give them something to regret." The docking bay of the Nexus Cascade was a cavernous maze of crates, flickering hololights, and the distant hum of maintenance drones. The unmarked Arcturian ship loomed before Lucas, Hayes, and Vera, its hull pulsing with an eerie green glow that seemed to ride like something alive. Lucas gripped his stolen pulse rifle, his heart pounding but his hands steady. The Shadow Talon's trap was closing, and he could feel the weight of it in the air, thick with the tang of coolant and the faint buzz of energy weapons charging in the shadows. "Stay low," Lucas whispered, his hazel eyes scanning the bay. Vera's teal glow dimmed instinctively, her bioluminescent skin blending with the dim light as she crouched beside him. Her violet eyes darted to the ship, then back to him, a silent question in her gaze. "They're waiting inside," she murmured, her voice carrying a faint melodic hum. "I can sense their intent, 5 minds focused, hostile. They know we're here." Lucas's jaw tightened. "Good. Makes it easier to find them." He flashed her a grin, the kind that had gotten him through a dozen near-death missions. "You ready to crash their party?" Vera's lips twitched, a hint of amusement breaking through her stoic facade. "You're reckless, Captain." "But yes, I'm ready." They moved as one, slipping through the shadows of stacked crates toward the ship's open hatch. Lucas's orbital guard training kept his steps silent, his rifle raised, while Vera's movements were fluid, almost otherworldly, her glow pulsing faintly with each step. The bay was too quiet, the kind of quiet that screamed ambush. Lucas's gut churned, but he pushed it down, focusing on the mission. The ruins in the Valera expanse, the ancient tech Vera had mentioned, were the key. If the Shadow Talons got their hands on it, Earth and the Arcturians would both pay the price. They reached the hatch, and Lucas peered inside. The ship's interior was a stark contrast to its sleek exterior, corridors lined with jagged, organic-looking tech that pulsed in sync with the hull. It felt wrong, like something not built but grown. "This isn't Arcturian," he whispered. "Not standard anyway." Vera's glow dimmed further, her voice tense. "It's not ours. The Covenant doesn't use biotech like this. It's older." Before Lucas could press her, a shadow moved in the corridor. He reacted on instinct, shoving Vera behind a bulkhead as a plasma bolt scorched the air where they'd stood. The Shadow Talons emerged from the darkness, 5 figures in black exosuits, their crimson claw insignias glinting under the green glow. Their visors were opaque, but Lucas could feel their focus, cold and predatory. "Move!" he shouted, diving behind a crate as bolts rained down. Vera's shield flared, a shimmering wall of energy that deflected a volley, giving Lucas time to return fire. His rifle barked, catching one Talon in the knee, dropping them with a howl. Vera moved like a comet, her bioluminescence flaring as she closed the distance to another, disarming them with a telekinetic pulse that sent their weapons skidding across the deck. Lucas rolled to his feet, firing again, but the remaining Talons were fast, their exosuits enhancing their speed. One lunged at him, a vibroblade humming in their hand. Lucas parried with his pulse rifle, the impact jarring his arms, but he twisted, using the Talon's momentum to slam them into a bulkhead. The crack of their armor echoed, and they slumped unconscious. Vera was a blur, her shield flickering as she grappled with another Talon. Her strength surprised Lucas. She was slender, almost fragile-looking, but she fought with the ferocity of a seasoned warrior. A final Talon aimed at her back, and Lucas didn't hesitate, firing a burst that caught them in the chest. The mercenary collapsed, their suits sparking. The bay fell silent, save for the hum of the ship's strange tech. Lucas and Vera stood panting, their backs to each other, weapons still raised. Nice moves, Lucas said, catching his breath. Didn't know Arcturians could fight like that. Vera's glow steadied, her violet eyes meeting his. And I didn't know humans could keep up. You're unexpected. He grinned, wiping sweat from his brow. Stick around. I'm full of surprises. They moved deeper into the ship, the corridors narrowing, the green glow intensifying. Lucas's comm buzzed, but the signal was garbled, static drowning out Colonel Reyes's voice. We're too deep, he muttered. Interference from the ship's tech. Vera's glow pulsed, her expression troubled. This ship is a relic, modified with pre-Concord technology. The Shadow Talons didn't build it, they found it. And they're using it to reach the Expanse's ruins. Lucas's mind raced. The ruins, the ancient signal, the Talons, it was all connected. What's in those ruins that's worth starting a war over? Vera hesitated, her glow dimming as if shielding her thoughts. The Arcturians call it the Star Forge. A device capable of reshaping matter, rewriting ecosystems, even altering gravity. If the Talons control it, they could hold entire systems hostage. Lucas swore under his breath. And Lyrian's in on it? I don't know, Vera admitted, her voice tight. She's ambitious, but this feels bigger than her. They reached the ship's bridge, a circular chamber dominated by a pulsating core of green energy. Hollow displays flickered with alien glyphs, and a single console stood active, its controls glowing. Lucas approached, his rifle lowered but ready. Can you read this? Vera's fingers danced over the console, her glow flaring as she interfaced with the system. It's a navigation log. The ship's been to the Expanse multiple times, delivering something. Weapons, maybe. Or worse. Before she could dig deeper, the core pulsed violently, and a low hum filled the chamber. Lucas's comm crackled to life, unprompted, with a distorted voice. Captain Hayes, Sentinel Vera. The Starforge wakes. Leave now, or you'll be its fuel. The ship shuddered, and the hollow displays flickered, showing a map of the Valera Expanse with a single point pulsing red, an asteroid field deep in the neutral zone. Lucas's gut twisted. That's our target. Vera's eyes widened. We can't let the Talons reach it first. Then we take this ship, Lucas said, his voice firm. Can you fly it? She nodded, sliding into the pilot's chair. It's not standard, but I can manage. Lucas took the co-pilot's seat, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The ship's engines roared to life, and they blasted out of the docking bay, the Nexus cascade shrinking behind them as they plunged into the nebula's swirling clouds. The green glow of the hull cast eerie shadows across the bridge, and Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that they were flying into something far bigger than either of them could handle. The Valera Expanse was a graveyard of asteroids and forgotten ships, its jagged rocks lit by the nebula's distant glow. The stolen ship navigated the field with surprising agility, Vera's hands steady on the controls. Lucas watched her, noting the focus in her violet eyes, the way her glow pulsed in rhythm with her breathing. She was a warrior, no question, but there was something else, a vulnerability she hid behind her strength. You don't trust Lyrian, he said, breaking the silence. Why stick with her? Vera's glow dimmed slightly, her voice soft. Duty. The Covenant raised me, trained me to protect our people. Lyrian is difficult, but she's our voice in the Concord. I follow orders even when they don't sit right. Lucas nodded, understanding more than he let on. He'd followed his share of bad orders during the Dust Crisis, watching good people die for decisions made in ivory towers. Sometimes duty's a chain, he said quietly. You ever think about breaking it? Her eyes flicked to him, searching. And you, Captain? You wear your uniform like a shield, but I see the scars. You're not here just for Earth's glory. He chuckled, leaning back. You're good, I'll give you that. Yeah, I've got my reasons. Earth's my home, but it's also a mess, politics, greed, same old story. I'm here to make sure we don't lose what we fought for. And maybe, he hesitated, his voice softening, Maybe to prove we're more than what people like Lyrian think. Vera's glow softened, and for a moment, she looked almost human. You remind me of someone I lost, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. A brother. He believed in proving our worth, no matter the cost. Lucas wanted to ask more, but a proximity alert blared, cutting him off. The holo display showed 3 Shadow Talon ships closing fast, their weapons hot. Looks like they didn't appreciate us borrowing their ride, he said, gripping the weapons console. Vera's hands tightened on the controls. Hold on. The ship lurched as she banked hard, weaving through the asteroid field. Plasma bolts lit up the void, grazing the hull with sizzling impacts. Lucas fired back, his shots precise, clipping one Talon ship's engines and sending it spiraling into an asteroid. The other 2 adjusted, their movements coordinated, predatory. They're hurting us, Vera said, her glow flaring with intensity. There's a choke point ahead, a debris field. If we go through, they'll have us. Then we don't go through, Lucas said, his mind racing. He scanned the holomap, spotting a narrow gap between 2 massive asteroids. There, can you thread that needle? Vera's eyes widened. It's too tight. One miscalculation. Trust me. Lucas cut in, his voice steady. I've flown tighter spots in a junker on Mars. You've got this. Her glow pulsed, a mix of doubt and determination, but she nodded. Hold on. The ship dove toward the gap, the asteroids looming like silent titans. Plasma bolts rained down, one catching the rear shield and sending a shudder through the hull. Lucas braced himself, his hands flying over the weapons console, firing a spread of decoy flares to draw the Talons off. Vera's focus was absolute, her glow blazing as she piloted the ship through the gap with inches to spare, the hull scraping against rock with a scream of metal. They emerged on the other side, the Talon ships momentarily lost in the debris. Lucas let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Nice flying, Sentinel. Vera's glow dimmed, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Nice shooting, Captain. The moment of relief was short-lived. The holodisplay pinged, showing the red pulse in the asteroid field growing stronger. They were close, too close. The ship slowed as they approached a massive, hollowed-out asteroid, its surface etched with alien glyphs that glowed faintly under the nebula's light. Inside, a structure loomed, a jagged, crystalline spire that pulsed with the same green energy as the ship. The Starforge, Vera whispered, her voice tinged with awe and fear. Lucas's comm buzzed again, this time with a clear signal from Colonel Reyes. Hayes, we've got intel. The Arcturians are mobilizing a fleet to the Expanse. Lyrians claiming you've gone rogue, stolen their ship. Get me answers, now. Lucas's jaw clenched. Lyrian's playing us. She's covering her tracks. Vera's glow darkened, her voice hard. If she's working with the Talons, she's betrayed the Covenant. I need to know why. They docked the ship inside the asteroid, the airlock hissing as they stepped into the spire's chamber. The Starforge was massive, its crystalline structure humming with power, its surface etched with glyphs that seemed to shift under their gaze. Lucas's skin prickled, the air heavy with static. This thing's alive, he muttered. Vera approached the central console, her glow sinking with the spire's energy. It's more than alive. It's aware. The Starforge was built to create, to reshape worlds. But it needs a catalyst, a living mind to guide it. Lucas's gut twisted. And the Talons want to be that mind. Before Vera could respond, the chamber shook, and a hollow projection flickered to life. Lyrian's image appeared, her teal glow cold and commanding. Sentinel Vera, Captain Hayes, she said, her voice dripping with disdain. You've meddled in affairs beyond your understanding. The Starforge belongs to the Arcturians, and we will claim it, with or without your corpses. Lucas stepped forward, his voice steady. You're working with the Talons, Lyrian. That's treason, even by your standards. Lyrian's glow pulsed, a flicker of anger breaking her composure. Treason? I protect my people from your kind's greed. The Starforge will ensure Arcturian dominance. Step aside, or be erased. The projection vanished, and the chamber's lights flared red. Drones emerged from the walls, their weapons glowing with lethal intent. Lucas grabbed Vera's arm, pulling her behind a crystal pillar as bolts sizzled past. "We need to shut this thing down!" Vera's glow flared, her shield deflecting a drone's fire. "The console, it's the key. If I can interface, I can lock the Star Forge." Lucas nodded, firing at the drones to cover her. "Go. I've got your back." She sprinted for the console, her glow blazing as she dodged fire. Lucas moved like a man possessed, his shots precise, each drone dropping with a satisfying crunch. But more emerged, their numbers overwhelming. A bolt grazed his shoulder, searing through his uniform, and he gritted his teeth, ignoring the pain. Vera reached the console, her hands glowing as she interfaced, her mind battling the Starforge's ancient systems. Lucas fought his way to her, his rifle overheating. "You good?" Her voice was strained, her glow flickering. "It's fighting me. The Starforge, it wants a host." A drone lunged, and Lucas tackled it, smashing its core with the butt of his rifle. "Tell it to pick someone else." Vera's glow surged, and the chamber's hum faltered. The drones froze, then collapsed, their lights dimming. She slumped against the console, her breath ragged. "It's locked, for now. But Lyrian's coming. She'll try again." Lucas helped her up, his hand lingering on her arm. Her glow was warm, almost comforting, and he realized how close they'd come to dying. "You okay?" Her violet eyes met his, softer now, vulnerable. "I've never fought anything like that. Not alone." "You weren't alone," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "And you won't be." For a moment they stood there, the weight of their survival settling between them. Lucas's shoulder throbbed, but he ignored it, focusing on Vera's face, the way her glow seemed to pulse in sync with his heartbeat. He wanted to say something, to acknowledge the spark he felt, but a rumble shook the chamber, and the hollow display flickered back to life, showing Talon's ships closing in. "We need to move," Lucas said, his voice hard again. "This isn't over." Vera nodded, her glow steadying. "There's a secondary dock below. We can take an escape pod, get back to the Nexus." They sprinted for the dock, the Starforge's hum fading behind them. The escape pod was a cramped, utilitarian craft, but it was their only shot. Lucas strapped in, his hands flying over the controls as Vera sealed the hatch. The pod launched, rocketing through the asteroid field as Talon's ships fired, their bolts lighting up the void. Lucas glanced at Vera, her glow illuminating the pod's dim interior. "You ever think about what happens if we pull this off? If we stop Lyrian?" Her eyes met his, a mix of determination and something softer. "I think it might change everything. For both our people." He nodded, a grin tugging at his lips despite the chaos. "Then let's make sure we live to see it." The pod streaked toward the Nexus Cascade, the Talon ships in pursuit, and Lucas knew they were racing against time. The Starforge was awake, Lyrian was plotting, and the galaxy was on the brink. But as he looked at Vera, her glow a beacon in the dark, he felt a fire kindling inside him, a human fire, stubborn and unyielding. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The escape pod screamed through the Valera expanse, its hull rattling as Shadow Talon's ships pursued, their plasma bolts lighting up the nebula's swirling reds and purples. Lucas Hayes gripped the controls, his shoulder throbbing from the graze he'd taken in the Starforge chamber, but his focus was razor-sharp. Beside him, Vera's teal glow pulsed erratically, her violet eyes locked on the hollow display as she tracked the enemy ships. The Nexus Cascade loomed ahead, a glittering beacon of safety, or a trap, depending on what awaited them. "They're gaining," Vera said, her melodic voice tight with strain. "Two ships, heavy armaments. We can't outrun them in this pod." Lucas's jaw clenched, his hands steady despite the adrenaline flooding his system. "Then we don't outrun them. We outsmart them." He scanned the holomap, his orbital guard training kicking in. The expanse was a maze of asteroids and debris, relics of a long-dead star system. He spotted a dense cluster of wreckage, a graveyard of ancient ships, their hulls twisted into jagged sculptures. "There," he said, pointing. "We dive into that mess, use the debris for cover." Vera's glow dimmed, her eyes narrowing. "It's suicide. One wrong move, and we're dust." Lucas flashed her a grin, the same reckless one that had carried him through the dust crisis on Earth. "Trust me, Sentinel. I've flown worse odds and worse ships. You handle the shields, I'll handle the flying." Her gaze met his, a flicker of doubt giving way to resolve. "Don't make me regret this, Captain." The pod banked hard, diving into the wreckage field. Plasma bolts sizzled past, one grazing the hull with a screech of metal. Vera's hands flew over the auxiliary controls, her bioluminescent skin flaring as she channeled energy into the pod's shields, deflecting another hit. Lucas wove through the debris, his movements precise, the pod threading gaps that seemed impossibly tight. A Talon ship misjudged a turn, slamming into a derelict hull and erupting in a silent fireball. "One down," Lucas muttered, his eyes locked on the holomap. The second Talon ship was smarter, hanging back, waiting for a clear shot. He needed to shake it before they reached the Nexus. Vera's glow pulsed, her voice urgent. "They're locking weapons. We've got seconds." Lucas spotted a massive asteroid, its surface pocked with craters. "Hold on." He pushed the pod into a spiraling dive, skimming the asteroid's surface so close the hull scraped rock. The Talon ship followed, its weapons charging, then Lucas yanked the controls, pulling the pod into a sharp climb. The Talon ship, caught off guard, couldn't adjust in time, smashing into the asteroid in a burst of debris. Vera let out a breath, her glow steadying. "Reckless," she said, but there was a hint of admiration in her voice. "Effective," Lucas corrected, his grin fading as the Nexus cascade grew closer. "Now let's figure out how to deal with Lyrian." Her expression hardened. "If she's working with the Talons, she's betrayed everything the Covenant stands for. I need to confront her." Lucas nodded, but his gut churned. Lyrian's accusations, calling him a rogue, pinning the Expanse's chaos on Earth, were a calculated move. The Starforged's power was the prize, and she'd do anything to claim it. But something didn't add up. Why risk war when the Arcturians already held the upper hand? He glanced at Vera, her glow a soft beacon in the pod's dim interior, and felt a pang of something he hadn't let himself feel in years. Hope, mixed with fear. They were in this together, but the stakes were higher than either had imagined. The Nexus Cascade's diplomatic corps was in chaos when the pod docked. Alarms blared, and security drones buzzed through the corridors, their sensors scanning for threats. Lucas and Vera slipped through a service hatch, avoiding the main bays where Arcturian and human forces were likely mobilizing. Lucas's comm crackled with a message from Colonel Reyes. "Hayes, Lyrian's called an emergency Concord session. She's accusing Earth of sabotage and demanding sanctions. Get to the Grand Spire, now." Lucas swore under his breath. "She's moving fast. We need evidence to shut her down." Vera's glow pulsed, her voice steady. "The Starforged logs. I downloaded fragments when I locked it. If we can broadcast them, we can prove Lyrian's working with the Talons." Lucas nodded, his mind racing. The Grand Spire, the Nexus's central chamber, was a fortress of crystal and steel, where the Galactic Concord held its sessions. It was also a death trap, crawling with security and Lyrian's loyalists. "We'll need a way in. And a way to stay alive long enough to transmit." Vera's eyes met his, a spark of determination in their violet depths. "I know the spire's layout. There's a maintenance conduit that runs parallel to the chamber. We can access the broadcast system from there." Lucas raised an eyebrow, impressed. "You've done this before, haven't you?" Her lips twitched, almost a smile. "A sentinel prepares for all contingencies." They moved through the service corridors, the station's underbelly a maze of flickering lights and hissing pipes. Lucas's shoulder ached, the plasma burn a constant reminder of how close they'd come to dying. Vera's glow lit their path, her presence steadying him in a way he hadn't expected. He'd spent years keeping people at arm's length. Trust was a liability in his line of work, but Vera was different. Her strength, her vulnerability, the way she fought beside him, it stirred something he'd buried after the dust crisis, when he'd lost too many to let anyone close again. "You're quiet," Vera said, glancing at him as they navigated a narrow passage. "What's on your mind?" He hesitated, then spoke, his voice low. "Just thinking about what happens if we pull this off. Exposing Lyrian, stopping the Talons, it could change everything. For Earth, for the Arcturians, for us." Her glow softened, her eyes searching his. "Us?" Lucas met her gaze, his heart thudding. "Yeah. You and me. We're not supposed to work, you know, human, Arcturian, different worlds. But here we are." Vera's glow pulsed, a mix of warmth and uncertainty. "My people don't connect like yours do. Emotions are a liability, a distraction. But with you..." She trailed off, her voice catching. "It's different." Before Lucas could respond, a shadow moved ahead, a Talon enforcer, their crimson claw insignia glinting. Lucas reacted on instinct, tackling Vera into a side alcove as a plasma bolt scorched the wall. The enforcer advanced, their exosuit humming with power. Lucas fired, his pulse rifle barking, but the Talon's armor absorbed the hits. Vera's shield flared, deflecting a second bolt, and she lunged, her bioluminescence blazing as she drove a telekinetic pulse into the enforcer's chest, sending them crashing through a conduit. Lucas grabbed her hand, pulling her forward. "We're running out of time." They reached the maintenance conduit, a claustrophobic tunnel that smelled of ozone and burnt wiring. The Grand Spire's broadcast system was just ahead, but the hum of security drones grew louder. Lucas's comm buzzed again, this time with an anonymous signal. "The Starforged cannot be denied. Surrender or burn." Vera's glow flickered, her voice urgent. "The Starforge, it's influencing the Talons, maybe even Lyrian. It's not just tech. It's alive." Lucas's stomach twisted. A sentient weapon capable of reshaping worlds was bad enough. One with its own agenda was a nightmare. Then we shut it down for good. The Grand Spire was a cathedral of light, its crystalline walls refracting the nebula's glow into a kaleidoscope of color. The Concord session was in full swing, with delegates from a dozen species seated in tiered galleries. Lyrian stood at the center, her teal glow commanding attention as she presented her case, her hollow display showing fabricated footage of human drones in the expanse. Ambassador Patel, Earth's delegate, looked grim, his arguments faltering under Lyrian's onslaught. Lucas and Vera slipped into the broadcast control room, a cramped chamber overlooking the spire. The console was a maze of alien tech, but Vera's hands moved with practiced ease, her glow syncing with the system. "I'm uploading the logs," she said, her voice tight. "We need to override the spire's security to broadcast." Lucas stood guard, his rifle raised, his shoulders screaming with every movement. "How long?" "Seconds," Vera replied, her glow flaring. "But they'll know we're here." As if on cue, the door exploded inward, and Talon enforcers stormed in, their weapons glowing. Lucas fired, dropping one, but the others were fast, their exosuits dodging his shots. Vera's shield flared, protecting the console, but a bolt grazed her arm, searing her glowing skin. She hissed in pain, her glow dimming, but kept working. "Keep going," Lucas shouted, diving into the fray. He tackled the Talon, slamming them into the wall, his fists a blur as he fought hand to hand. Another enforcer aimed at Vera, and Lucas threw himself in the way, the bolt hitting his chest. Pain exploded through him, his nanoweave armor absorbing most of the impact, but he staggered, his vision blurring. "Lucas!" Vera's voice cut through the haze, her glow blazing as she finished the upload. The spire's hollow displays flickered, then lit up with the Starforged's logs, proof of Lyrian's collusion with the Talons, their plan to seize the ancient tech, and the fabricated drone footage. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the delegates saw the truth. Lyrian's glow darkened, her voice rising in a desperate shout. "This is a lie. Humanity seeks to destabilize the Concord." But the evidence was undeniable. The logs showed Talon ships moving through the expanse, carrying pre-Concord tech, all under Lyrian's orders. Ambassador Patel seized the moment, his voice booming. The Arcturian envoy has betrayed the Concord. We demand her arrest and a full investigation. Security drones flooded the spire, their weapons trained on Lyrian. She snarled, her glow flaring, but Concord guards moved in, restraining her. The chamber erupted in chaos, delegates shouting, some demanding justice, others calling for calm. In the control room, Lucas slumped against the wall, his chest burning where the bolt had hit. Vera knelt beside him, her glow soft, her hands gentle as she checked his wound. You're an idiot, she said, her voice trembling. Taking a hit like that. Had to keep you safe. Lucas rasped, managing a weak grin. You're the one who saved the day. Her violet eyes softened, and for a moment the chaos faded. She leaned closer, her glow warm against his skin, and pressed her forehead to his, a gesture he didn't understand but felt deeply. You're impossible, she whispered. He chuckled, wincing at the pain. You're not so bad yourself, Sentinel. 6 months later, the Nexus Cascade was a different place. The exposure of Lyrian's conspiracy had shifted the galaxy's power dynamics. The Arcturian Covenant, humiliated by their envoy's betrayal, had opened talks with Earth, forging a tentative alliance. The Starforge remained locked, its chambers sealed under Concord oversight, its secrets guarded until both species could agree on its fate. The Nexus's newly established human Arcturian cultural hub buzzed with activity, its atrium filled with diplomats, scientists, and civilians from both worlds. Lucas stood at the center, his uniform crisp but his posture relaxed, the scar on his chest a faint reminder of the battle. Beside him, Vera glowed softly, her silver hair loose, her teal skin shimmering under the atrium's lights. She wore a ceremonial sash, a symbol of her new role as a liaison between their peoples. You clean up nice, Lucas said, his grin teasing as he adjusted her sash. Vera's lips curved, her glow pulsing with amusement. And you look less like a reckless fool in that uniform. Almost respectable. Almost. He agreed, his hazel eyes warm. Gotta keep you on your toes. The hub's opening ceremony was a celebration of unity, but Lucas and Vera's presence was its heart. Their partnership, forged in the gym, tested in battle, had become a symbol of what humanity and Arcturians could achieve together. Colonel Reyes approached, her expression a mix of pride and exasperation. You two stirred up a hell of a storm, she said. But you pulled it off. The Concord's talking peace for the first time in decades. Vera's glow softened. It's a start. But the Starforge is still out there. We'll need to stay vigilant. Lucas nodded, his hand brushing hers. Together then? Reyes raised an eyebrow, catching the gesture. You two are trouble. But the good kind. She paused, her voice softening. The medics say your recovery's on track, Hayes. That armor we've saved your ass. Lucky me, Lucas said, his grin hiding the memory of the pain. He glanced at Vera, her glow a quiet anchor. Had a good partner watching my back. As Reyes moved off to mingle, Lucas led Vera to a quieter corner of the atrium, where the nebula's glow cast soft shadows. Any regrets? He asked, his voice low, almost hesitant. Vera's eyes met his, her glow warm and steady. Regrets? For fighting beside a human who thinks he's tougher than an asteroid? She smiled, a rare, genuine expression. No. You changed me, Lucas. I was taught to see your kind as weak, fleeting. But you're more than that. He took her hand, his thumb tracing the glowing veins beneath her skin. And you're more than a sentinel. You're Vera. And I'm damn glad we met. She leaned closer, her glow enveloping them both, and kissed him, a soft, tentative connection that spoke of trust hard-earned. The atrium's noise faded, leaving just the two of them, human and Arcturian, defying the galaxy's expectations. As they parted, Vera's glow pulsed, her voice soft but firm. The galaxy's not done with us, Captain. The Starforge, the Talons, they'll come again. Lucas's grin returned, fierce and unyielding. Let them. Humanity's been through worse. And with you by my side? They don't stand a chance. They turned back to the celebration, hands still linked, the nebula's light casting their shadows as one. The Starforged secrets lingered, a distant threat, but for now, Lucas and Vera had forged something stronger, a bond that proved their peoples weren't enemies, but partners. And in that bond, the ashes of defiance burned bright, a beacon for a galaxy on the brink of change.